Are you ready to explore the unknown? Dive into the world of the strange, mysterious, and unexplained with Eerie Expeditions magazine. Each issue is packed with spine-tingling tales, cutting-edge paranormal investigations, and exclusive insights into hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more. Whether you're a seasoned investigator or just love a good ghost story, Eerie Expeditions magazine has something for you. Join our growing community of truth seekers and adventure lovers. Subscribe today at EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com and unlock the secrets of the supernatural. Are you ready? That's EerieExpeditionsMagazine.com, where the extraordinary is just a click away. Dare to discover.
Welcome to the Gateway, broadcasting live from the Bluffs of the Rockies. We are live on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM, and I'm your host this evening, C.L. Thomas. You've been listening to Sean Kelly with Into the Night right here on United Public Radio Network 107. You can tune again on Sundays at 5 p.m. Central, and he'll be on. Tonight we're exploring a question that sits at the crossroads of psychology, spirituality, and the paranormal. When someone has an unexplained experience, a visitation, dream, an encounter with a spirit, or an overwhelming sense that a loved one is still nearby, is it purely psychological or is it spiritual? Many of you know I'm a member of a spiritualist church. I'm really good friends with Tim Shaw, and I do a lot of mediumship and things like that. So to me, it's very real. But is all paranormal experiences real? Or is the answer more complex than an explanation? Than a paranormal explanation alone. For decades, the paranormal has often been viewed through just one lens, while mental health has been viewed through another. So we do have like a lot of demonic cases and things like that have come out throughout the years, but I don't think anyone's ever really looked at it from a mental standpoint. I kind of mentioned it a little bit in my book, Dancing with Demons. I do get into, is it psychological? But my guest tonight, she's phenomenal. I can't wait to get her on here. She's joining me. She's qualified to help us navigate these kinds of questions. She's known as the haunted therapist. She is a licensed mental health counselor. She's an EMDR certified trauma therapist. Can't talk tonight. And the host of the Haunted Therapist podcast. You guys, I have to stop right here for just a second. I have a 10-week-old baby golden retriever at my feet that's a little bit active. I'm going to show her to you. This is Heidi, and she's a little bit active tonight, so I do apologize. She may bark, she may growl, she may sound like a gremlin, but she has been fed and she is very well taken care of. So whatever happens, try to ignore. This is what's going on at my feet, so just try to ignore her. I'm going to hope for the best tonight. Anyway, that said, back to the haunted therapist. Her work focuses on fascinating intersection of trauma, the nervous system, spirituality, and paranormal experiences, helping people make sense of some of life's most profound and mysterious moments. So without further ado, let me get her on here. Brett, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing? I'm so excited to be here.
I
literally got out of bed for this.
You were laying in bed, yes. I'm so sorry I wasn't more clear about the video work.
Oh, don't apologize for getting me out of bed ever. Like, I need all the excuses that I can get. It's 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, so I'm just winding down. So this is like a perfect bedtime story for me. I love it.
Well, what you do is so unique in the paranormal realm. So I just had to get you on here to talk about it. So you're a therapist.
I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for over a decade and licensed therapist just in New York State. plan to work on a national license. That's my goal for 2027 because I'm coming across so many folks who resonate with what I do. I mean, I do normal traditional therapy, but obviously, I don't have any anything against people bringing their ghost stories to me. So I think that really is helpful to people to be able to incorporate, the spiritual side of psychotherapy as well, which
Yeah,
has existed for decades, mind you. I mean,
it started out because I thought that psychology meant the study of spirit in the mind, right?
well, it depends. I mean, there is now my brain's not going to be able to work. Like Maslow and Carl Jung, they started a whole transpersonal psychology is more kind of like that, where it incorporates the mind, but also the spirit, like people's spiritual experiences as well. But yeah, I mean, certainly psychology is not a hard science whatsoever. It's not a physical science.
No, it's not. And actually, that's up to a lot of discussion too, and that's how we got into a lot of the old mental institutions that were doing all of these different experimentations and things, right? Because it wasn't such a hardcore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love about the overlap with the paranormal. Like the paranormal and psychology are literally both asking the same questions.
They are.
What lingers and why?
It's very interesting. So, how do you approach your work when somebody comes and says that they're going through a severe haunting? They come to you. How do you deal with them?
Well, I mean, I'm a clinician first, always. So I have to rule out any significant mental health diagnoses that might be going on, and which is helpful no matter what. If that is something that's going on, then I'm glad you're here. Um, but as long as that's not something that's happening, then we just kind of work through what is it that you want to get out of this experience. I'm not there to prove or disprove their experience any more so than I would be with a mandated client who's seeing me, who tells me that they're innocent, they didn't do it. Great. But you're here for a reason. So let's find out what that reason is. So it's not my job to prove or disprove their experience. It's more to find out what meaning they're making out of it. What does that make them believe about themselves now, or the world around them? And how do they want that to affect the way that they live their lives? So, and that's kind of how I look at paranormal experiences too. If I'm doing investigations, ghost hunts, whatnot, it's not so much, oh, we got to get this evidence so that we can prove what's going on. It's more, let's sit in our own spirit and in our own instrument, our bodies, and find out how the friends that we're investigating with, how is that affecting us? Or, how is this energy that we're interacting with? How does that affect us?
That's what I love about your work, because there's so many paranormal investigators out there right now. Their only concern is to disprove somebody, right? So they're not, I don't know. I just feel like there's something to be said about not being worried about if it's proved or disproved, but more working with the client to come to terms with what they believe is going on, what they may or may not be experiencing, etc.
Exactly. And the idea of, I guess the way that I approach it is I'm approaching ghosts, whether they're external around us or internal, our own internal ghosts, with curiosity instead of fear, which is the opposite of the brain. Curiosity and fear can't exist in the brain at the same time.
Right. It's I talked a little bit about this situation in Dancing with Demons. I wrote a book about a paranormal experience I had years ago. And one of the things that I noticed in the paranormal, I've dealt with a lot of different clients who, well, I don't want to call them clients, or just people that I've helped, but over the years, they all kind of seem to have something in common, to where there's a lot in their life to clean up, so to speak. Like they have like a lot of chaos in their life and things like that. So for me, it's more about like not only helping them with their paranormal experiences and things, but also kind of looking at their own life and kind of evaluating where they can make those kinds of, I don't want to say improvements, but maybe make it a little more positive.
Yes. That's what I love about paranormal pursuits as a hobby. It can be so positive and so healthy. I mean, first of all, we're standing on the backs of giants. We're standing on centuries of, cross-cultural world religions, Hinduism, all of these things. I mean, spirituality, Christianity, everything, spiritualism has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So when we say paranormal, we have to like broaden the lens and not just look at our own, culture that we have here in the US or, neighboring countries or whatever. Like we're talking about spirituality that goes way back centuries.
Yeah.
And having honor and respect for those cultures. And also in this culture, like if you go into an abandoned building of some kind, thinking about having respect for the people that lived there prior to you and the things that they had to go through, it's such an amazing way to connect with history too. I think that, I don't know about class field trips, but some of these places like Gettysburg, I mean, you could argue that could be a great place to take a bunch of sixth graders, for example, in a fun way too. I think I would have learned a lot more in my history class if it was brought to me in this living history, so to speak, way, quote unquote. So yes. So anyways, that's my spirituality tangent. So the paranormal is about so much more than is it a ghost and what did the ghost say? And, on my podcast, that's what I talk about is not so much what did the ghost say, but like, what is a thought and how does that relate to what we're experiencing here, what we're hearing on the ghost box? How are we interacting with that, for example?
Here's another thing in my personal experiences too, is that I found a lot of the paranormal experiences that I've had personally, it is more of a spiritual based thing. It's more of a guidance for me for something else. Like even at Goldfield, I've investigated Goldfield Hotel, and there was some things that went on in there. It wasn't so much a scare factor or anything like that. It was more of the spirit world kind of telling me something else. Does that make sense?
And then it encourages you to figure out how you want to drop in to what it's telling you.
Right.
And what meaning are you going to make out of it? And it's super helpful before you go into an investigation to do some kind of meditation or some kind of like grounding activity or, nervous system regulation, which is another thing I love about paranormal pursuits is that they invite us to live a healthier lifestyle. You're sober when you're doing it. You're with friends.
So you should be sober while doing it.
You should be. Yeah,
some people who aren't.
Yeah, ideally, it's an invitation. You get more out of it if you're sober. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and if you spend any time in meditation, even if it's not working for you because the voices in your head won't shut up, great. Now you know what the voices in your own head sound like versus a voice that you might be hearing on the outside of your head, if you will, a disembodied voice and whatnot. So now you can tell the difference between the two. Like, oh, is it just me making this up? It invites you to do some trauma work. If you have any kind of trauma that you're carrying, it's actually a really interesting way to give your nervous system a little roller coaster ride because it's something that you signed up for. You bought the ticket. You're going to take the ride. You can get off the ride whenever you want. It's got a beginning. It's got an ending. Again, you're with friends, probably, or people that you trust. So it can be really good for your nervous system to experience some of these haunts, if you will.
I always found that going to a lot of these places is just such a great way to spend a Friday night,
For us, anyway. I don't know if everybody thinks that.
So trauma has a profound effect on the brain and nervous system. Have you found that unresolved trauma can change the way people perceive or interpret the paranormal, their paranormal experiences?
Did you say that does trauma have an effect on the way people And you cut out a little bit on my end.
Yeah. Have you found that unresolved trauma can change the way people perceive their, or how they I'm not talking well tonight, how they perceive their paranormal experiences?
Well, I mean, I don't know that for sure. I would assume so, because trauma has a way of affecting or impacting how we view life in general, how we view ourselves. You know what I mean? So just biological deduction, I would say, yeah, for sure. It could make somebody, anything from addiction to the paranormal down to only seeing things through a fear-based lens or through a negative lens. So it's certainly unresolved trauma. Yeah, you're not showing up at baseline. You're not showing up in homeostasis. You're showing up possibly already jacked up, if you will. You know what I mean? Like you're already ready to go. And so that expectation is then creating the experience. So now we don't know. Now it's not pure evidence. We don't know. And that's true no matter what. I mean, the experiment and the experimenter are one and the same. It's hard to separate those. But yeah, as much as you can, just process that trauma, which I call a ghost in the mind or a haunting in the mind, then you'll have a cleaner experience. It won't be so tainted with your own. But again, there's no way around that. We're always going to be part of the experiment. And that's cool. That's part of it. It's a conversation with the unknown or with this other energy that's out there, whatever it may be.
Do you find that what are some examples that you know of or have experienced just from your work that kind of have you met somebody that's kind of fear-based in the paranormal, that's, without saying any names or anything like that, of course, but can you kind of give an example
of somebody who's fear-based in the paranormal?
Yeah, in the paranormal, and how it kind of influences them?
I think that if somebody is, it's going to create a feedback loop. So whatever it is that your expectation is, you're gonna get it. That it's going to be, oh, it said demon instead of something that might sound, I guess we don't want to do a rhyming game with demon, but it sounds like something else.
That's a really good point. The old adage is, if you're going to find what you're looking for, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, it's good that we have all these TV shows that seem to be having all of these demonic experiences. It's good in the sense that, it normalizes the paranormal. It makes it cool. The kids think it's cool now, and it's something. So now we get to have the conversation. So those of us weirdos that were lurking in the shadows all along can just be like, yeah, we do that too. We were doing that before it was cool. But then everybody's thinking that that's what it is, and that's so not what it is.
Yeah, I think the last couple of years have really, a lot of that goes back to demon sell, so it sells ratings on television.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you have all of the paranormal world who follow these TV people. They go into it experiencing demons and things. That's kind of an interesting psychological on its own.
Yeah, well, it's that vicarious traumatization, or that vicarious kind of joyride that we like to go on TV.
Yeah,
with our favorite characters, just to feel something. A lot of people are kind of just existing, or going about their day. It's like Groundhog's Day. Everything feels the same, and that can be by some people that were drawn to horror movies, or The News, which is also a horror movie, that type of thing.
These days it is.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, I think the way that I kind of found myself in this, because I haven't even been doing this for very long, but I noticed that I was speaking in metaphor with my clients who are trauma survivors. And I was always saying, that the mind can be like a haunted house, or there's different rooms in your mind that you don't want to go in because they're haunted. And so I was like, what am I talking about here? And so then I just kind of like dove in deeper. And then I went on a couple paranormal investigations and had some genuine, well, my counseling office is haunted, which is insane. It was not something I was even looking for. I wasn't even into the paranormal when I moved into my private practice, 5 years ago now.
That's interesting. Has it always been used as a counseling area?
Everybody always asks me that exact question. So I must be meant to find an answer to it. No, I'm the first therapist to be there, but I think it was a dental office before then. It's like a building with different offices in it, and I'm in the basement. So
yeah, the reason I ask is because I used to work back in the day back in my med school days, I used to work at this place, third shift in the medical records office, doing work it was a level 3 mental facility for young boys. And before that, this building was a old folks home, or a retirement center, I should say. And then before that, it was a home of a medical doctor back in like the Civil War era. So, but for a time it wasn't just retirees, it was like those dealing with mental illnesses. And so that energy in that building, like the office I was using, was really haunted. So, and other people in the building, the kids even, these were 6-year-old kids in a level 3 facility telling the staff that they're seeing ghosts at night and stuff. It was really interesting. And so looking back, it's like, all that energy from the mental state being collected in one area, to me, it just makes sense that it would cause hauntings like that.
And what's interesting is it's definitely not my office doing it. Like, arguably we could say it's because I'm a therapist and people are coming in for an hour at a time and, crying and letting out all of this emotional energy. But I'm telling you, every day that I go into that office, it feels good in there. And it's so interesting. And so, I think it's our own brains that put the label of good and bad on things. Crying equals bad. Pain equals, oh, that's bad. Oh, it must be so sad in your office. Like the tears must linger. No, my plants are thriving. I have plants literally climbing the ceiling. I think that it feels quote unquote good in there because people are having raw, pure, authentic experiences, some of them paranormal, mind you. But they're making meaning and processing trauma. And that's actually all very positive stuff. So, but if it was a dentist before me, then I could see how that might be haunting.
I don't know. It's a good way to look at it though, because it's all, instead of looking at it as a place of strife, maybe it's a place of healing.
It's a place of healing for sure. That's exactly how it feels. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder what energy, if trauma itself is a haunting inside of our own nervous system in a way. If I'm working with a client and like we're doing EMDR and they're reprocessing that, so it's moving it into different lobes in their brain and their energy is shifting. And we all know that even if you're not into the paranormal, you can feel energy around you when you walk into a room. So now they're radiating out that energy, almost like if you get a deep tissue massage and then you got to drink a bunch of water afterwards to try to cleanse the toxins. It's similar to that. So it's going into the energy in my office. But I guess maybe it loses steam because it's no longer connected to the psyche. It's now just cellular. It's now just not even cellular. Now it's just in the air. It's in the atmos. But it's the mind that creates the haunting. It's our thoughts or our unprocessed trauma that make it negative or like a haunting. I say all the time, if I wheeled an fMRI machine in, like if somebody can't stop with like a thought or something, a thought is plaguing them, maybe because it's OCD, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's just a thing going on for them. If I attached your brain to a bunch of electrodes, we could look at the different lobes of the brain lighting up, but you can't see the thought. Where's the thought? It doesn't exist. The thoughts don't exist, and they absolutely rule our lives.
Yeah,
are in charge of our day and our mood and everything.
They do exist on some level, right? A thought is energy, and energy exists in some. Tesla tried to photograph thoughts.
I just heard of this. I have to do more research about that. Was he successful?
No, he was not.
Right. My point exactly.
But he was successful at holding a light. It's so phenomenal. I just love this guy. Holding a light bulb while standing on grounds, just without any, I don't know, like the electricity. Yeah. Look that up. He's actually standing. He's got that crazy machine that he built, that big tower. Yes, and it's going off. And there's a picture of him with a light bulb standing, I think like 100 feet away from this thing, and the energy actually transferred through the ground, through his feet, into that light bulb, and it's lit up.
This is what I'm saying. The world that we live in is peculiar and bizarre. What are you talking about? Everything is paranormal. Science is magic. It's insane. Technology is beyond our comprehension or explanation, at least to me on my level. The whole world, it's pretty magical here, that's for sure.
So I'm going to change the subject just a little bit. You often describe the mind as like a haunted house, and I love that analogy for so many different reasons. Can you explain what that means? It's kind of along what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I kind of started to dip into it when I said, what I realized that I was talking about trauma as a ghost that just pops up in your nervous system. And then I made a whole thing. I'm giving a presentation at the Paranormal Research Symposium in Gettysburg on this next month, kind of like a workshop for people to do. But yeah, I do a lot of parts work, internal family systems parts work. We all have parts. Part of me wants this, part of me wants that. So it's a way of looking at different parts of you that may have been born at different ages that come with you, like your inner child is a good example of that. And so sometimes those parts feel like they live in different parts of the haunted house. If your house is haunted, your mind or whatever, the basement would be a good example for where trauma, buried, suppressed trauma might live. And then the living room is kind of like the meeting area of the ghosts, or, the parts of ourself that kind of come together when I'm doing EMDR or parts work. It's like, let's go into the meeting room and have conversations with different parts of yourself that maybe could inform shed some light on a problem you might be having. The attic would be, I think of the attic as grief, or generational trauma, family systems, things like that. Mirrors inside the house would be perception or distortion, kind of like how we see ourselves or how we want to see ourselves. And the key in looking at this through a therapeutic lens is you force someone into the basement unprepared, right? You never just want to just go right into the trauma. It's something that you have to really build up to and make sure that someone is safe and ready to do that. But healing doesn't always remove ghosts, and that's true if you're doing paranormal investigation or therapy. It doesn't always necessarily remove the ghost, which I think some people are like, I actually kind of like this haunting. Great. If some people are afraid to do, or resistant to do EMDR because they think that means that they'll forget the thing that happened, and maybe they take some kind of pride in surviving what happened, but it doesn't mean that you forget. It just means that the ghost no longer controls the house. So healing is about erasing the past. It's about changing the relationship with what.
How does that relate to when somebody comes in and says they have attachments and things like that?
I haven't had somebody talk to that extent about paranormal experiences. The people that I'm seeing or treating for, all different depression, anxiety, trauma, all different types of things, relationship issues, their paranormal experiences, it's been real easy for us to fold it into meaning making for them. Almost as like the ghost that maybe is in their house or whatever is almost like a part of themselves that may have left their body and is now haunting them, trying to get their attention, which is a really interesting way to work
Yeah,
on it. And
that's really interesting.
it's interesting because when we've done it that way and they're able to almost have a conversation with that part, the haunting goes away. The paranormal experiences stop. At least for now, I have one client where it stopped and it hasn't come back yet, which is so fascinating. But I haven't worked with anybody that feels, I mean, I have worked with people who feel like they have an attachment psychologically in terms of, hearing their abuser's voice when they don't want to hear it over and over, things like that. So if I were to work with someone who had like a paranormal attachment or an entity or something, I would just do EMDR with them. I would do exactly what I would do with somebody who had a trauma attachment. There's no difference, because what's important to remember is that you have dominion over your own body, your own mind, your own thoughts.
Absolutely.
Try to.
Yeah. Grief is one of those most common reasons people become interested in the paranormal. I always say that if you're into paranormal, something's happened to you along the lines, or you've lost someone, or something happens. So from your perspective, why are after death communication experiences so meaningful, regardless of how someone interprets it?
Yes, I love this. So it puts you in touch with the relationship, first of all, that you had with that person, and keeps the relationship alive. So alive in the way that you can still get in touch with the part of yourself that you were when you were with that person, because that's what it all comes down to. The brain is just having, the consciousness is just having its own experience here. Who knows if you're even sitting across from me on the computer screen right now? I don't know. I think you are. Quantum physics might have something to say about that. So there's absolutely no reason, just because that person is no longer in physical form, that you can't still have a working relationship with that person, or inside of that dyad, inside of that relationship dynamic that you had. So it keeps that part of yourself alive too, which is super important to nurture. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me if your grandmother actually visited you or not. I'm not here. That's not the part that fascinates me. What fascinates me is, how did you feel about that? How did that make you feel? Not to put jargon, psychological jargon on it, but
I had a conversation with another medium from the Lilydale area just earlier this week about that same topic, and she was talking about how she's okay with doing mediumship with somebody, bringing in loved ones, particularly with grief. We were discussing the grief issue. As long as that other person is able to live and thrive with that. Because if they're not, then the whole point of mediumship for us is healing and creating hope for the person that's left alive. So if it's not achieving that in that light, then it's not good to continue that particular thing or that particular mediumship with that person.
And like you asked earlier, how can trauma kind of sometimes get in the way or shape someone's paranormal experience? Going to see a medium is one way that you can heal some trauma that who knows, we don't always lose somebody because they were 97 and they passed away peacefully in their bed. So going to see a medium is one way that you can work through the trauma of that, but it can also get in the way if you haven't worked on some trauma about how you may have lost someone. It can kind of make the person, I'm not a medium, but I would think that it could make your client too focused on hearing from one person in one type of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which can be challenging, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is. I had an experience one time with a woman. I don't want to get into too many details just for her privacy, but she lost a son through a dramatic event, and she came to me after going to another person that I know very well. My friend was not able to bring through her son, And then when I talked to her, I kind of interview the person just a little bit just to see where they are, state of mind before doing anything.
Oh, nice.
She just could not. She just was not in a place to be able to do it at all. It was the first time I ever had to say, this isn't a good idea.
I think would be really interesting. I wish that I had, I suppose I do have a, because I live only like 45 minutes from Lilydale, that I could have a working relationship with a medium where, if a medium was like, ooh, you're going to need some, nervous system regulation or some trauma healing first or something, and then I work with them and then send them. I did have a client who went to a medium once, and it was so interesting, and it added such a rich layer for her in our session, because she brought back the recording that she had with the medium, and it was so fun for her and validating for her, because I've been working with her for years, for me to just be like, oh my God, that sounds so like you, or blah blah blah, like it was so interesting. And then we were able to pull some of that out and use it therapeutically. What a cool, neat working relationship for a therapist and the medium to be working with a client together. Multi-pronged approach to healing.
Yeah, I think it could work, I really do. If it's done, I think, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the paranormal kind of lost that piece, or maybe they never had it to begin with. I think that's why I like to do more of the spiritual based and mediumship versus the paranormal these days. But you just don't get that, I don't think, a lot with the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, that's more of the adventure. That's more of the hunter-gatherer, and then or the hunter part, and then back here at home we're gathering and meaning making and things like that, and they're going out and collecting evidence and new data and everything. It works well together for sure.
Mm-hmm. It does. I wish everybody would work together a little bit,
Yeah, that would be helpful. But that's what I like about the paranormal community so far that I've found, is that we all do kind of, I don't know, it's what I've come across. It's been a very supportive community, which is another great thing about it.
So the people in paranormal, there's like investigators, experiencers, and then there's the people looking just for answers. What's the biggest misconception that people have about the relationship between mental health and paranormal experiences?
Well, that they have to be separate. That they're two distinct things. Again, psychology is not a hard science. It's not a physical science. It's very open. It's when it's boiled down, it is just about data collection and observing patterns. There's so many patterns in psychology, and there's so many patterns in the paranormal. We can't have replication so much in the paranormal, but we can't really have it too much in psychology either. You can't make the subject, respond always in the exact same way necessarily. It's not a hard science. So it doesn't have to be separate. As a matter of fact, I'd love for people to know that in the DSM, which is how, we diagnose everyone, the book, the Bible of diagnoses, way back at the end of the book, page 800, they now inserted a thing in there that says, if something is spiritually or culturally sanctioned, that it's not pathologized. You can hear all the voices that you want. And it's not a diagnosis, which is really interesting. Right. Like, doesn't that change pages 1 through 799 then? I don't know.
Well, how do they distinguish the differences between something like schizophrenia and
like
a demonic oppression or something?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, schizophrenia has like 8 markers that you need to meet, or 5 out of 8 or something that you need to be able to. It's pretty significant. It's not just about what's happening to you. It's also about the negative symptoms, meaning what's not happening, what you're not able to do anymore. So, it has to really, but there's nothing saying that we can't try all different types of treatment. Why not send a priest too?
Why wouldn't they though? If that's what the person believes.
If that's what the person believes, that's what matters. Yeah. I mean, placebo is so interesting. We could know that something is placebo and it still works. That's how ridiculous our brains are. Like, we want something to work so bad, it's going to work, even if we know that it's placebo.
It's interesting. The brain is so powerful. I just really, if everybody learned how to control thoughts and everything, can you imagine what humanity could do?
Yeah, it'd be like the Matrix, possibly. It probably already is. There's probably people. That's the other thing, is we don't know if it's a ghost floating on by, or if you catch something on your XLS camera or on the spirit box or something. How do you know that's not somebody from another dimension? How do you know that's not somebody from this dimension who's still alive, who's having some kind of transcendental experience, or the multiverse or something? There's just no
Just
way
don't
to know
know.
because of the power of the mind. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And how cool is that? I mean, that's what makes this so much fun to talk about on a Tuesday night, It's ridiculous.
I lived in Vegas for 6 years, and I just moved to Wyoming recently, and, it kinda made me look at the paranormal a little different because of the Native American culture here. And when you start looking at their ideas of, I'm sorry, the dog is chasing the cat.
Oh my God, there's a cat too.
Yeah, this is Loki. I don't know if you can see.
We have a dog called Loki. I love that.
Yeah, anyway, the Native American culture, of course, they're always very spiritual based. There's a lot of hauntings around Vegas associated with the American culture, the Native American culture. They have like a lot of the like pterodactyls and just all sorts of spirit-based creatures. And one of the things, though, is that they incorporate not necessarily alien activity, but third dimensional beings as part of their paranormal.
Right.
And so I guess where I'm going with that is there's a mountain not too far from me where I live now. So, I used to go to Area 51 and explore all the petroglyphs and all that kind of stuff. But now I live on the base of Medicine Mountain. And supposedly there's like, first of all, there's a lot of UFO based activity in that area. People go missing from that area a lot. It's one of those places that hunters and stuff will just go missing. But then the Native Americans hold it as a sacred place to where they go and get healings and things. So there's like layer after layer of paranormal activity.
It goes hand in hand. And look, they always end up using it for healing purposes too, which is what we're talking about tonight. The link and the tie-in and how, and like you said, to keep answering that question, the misconception is that they're not two separate things. One can be completely related to the other. We can be using paranormal, so-called paranormal, also spiritual, for healing.
Right. So social media has made extraordinary paranormal claims spread faster than ever. How do we stay open-minded about losing our ability to think critically in the midst of all of this?
I mean, that's a good question for any realm or any avenue of life. How do we stay? Yeah, you have to. Yes, critical thinking is it. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question, but other than saying yes, like learn how to think critically. And I value questions so much more than I value answers, or I dig them more. Like, I'm into questions a lot more than answers, because when you have an answer, well, that's it. All right, time to go home. We know, but the ability to arrive at an answer is so limited to mathematics, I think. To arrive at a definite period, end of story answer, it is very hard science, mathematics, and not even hard science. I mean, things that we're getting new information all the time. So to stay open-minded, stay curious, I think is a huge factor or component of critical thinking. And to know that beliefs are actually very limiting, because you're living in a state of, I already know the answer. Beliefs can be very helpful. Don't get me wrong. They can be extremely helpful, especially in dark times. But use it. Use it as your tool and be willing to change your beliefs. It's okay. We're constantly changing all the time, or even our skin is regenerating. We're not the same as we were yesterday, certainly. And to be intentional, I think to wake up every day with intention matters almost more than anything. And a little bit of ritual if you can, even if it's just, noticing what it is that you're doing. Maybe your ritual is that today my ritual is going to be that I'm noticing what I'm thinking and I'm going to be aware of my thoughts. That's
a good one. Be aware of my thoughts.
It's about as paranormal as you can get for the day. I mean, if you can do that, shoot.
So you work with a lot of people processing trauma, and people exploring their spiritual experiences. Have you noticed any common threads that connect healing with a deeper sense of intuition or personal transformations?
I think the light bulb moments for people, the thread there, the aha moments are when they get in touch with the different parts of themselves, realizing that they are multifaceted, that they're not just one thing, and they allow themselves to listen to their body, the different parts of their mind, and their spirit. Because your body has so much information for you. There's so much, I mean, that's where, trauma is stored in there and everything. And, we don't listen to our body. We just walk around like a brain in a jar, that the body is just a vehicle, but no, it has so much information for us. So I would say like the common thread is actually in the solution. And the solution is to know that you have at any given moment thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are, they're all under your control. But we're asleep. We're not realizing that. We think that our thoughts are just, we're a victim of our own thoughts. And because we're thinking them, they must be true. And now that I've thought this horrible thought that was outside of my control and without my consent, now my mood is in the toilet. And now I'm going to go, smoke or do my bad behavior, my bad habit, or start a fight, or live in fear, or isolate, or all of the things. So to know that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, those are the common thread. And to wake up inside of the simulation and know that you do actually have the ability to have control and to choose what you choose to think. And thoughts are tricky. They're like, to me, they're vultures. Anytime we have like a strong feeling, a thought will just circle it and be like, ooh, I've got a story for that. And it's not a good one. But let me tell it to you. And that's going to affect your whole day. Sometimes just sitting with it is the answer.
Who was the guy who wrote the book about controlling your thoughts? It was a writer from the 30s. I can't remember his name. He wrote Outwitting the Devil and
was he a psychotherapist?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think I know who you mean. Yeah, but it's been a concept that's been around forever, but they don't teach it, certainly not, because then how would they control our minds? Whoever they are.
Do you think that every haunting is really about ghosts, or are some hauntings simply unresolved stories? You kind of already answered that, but I kind of wanted to end with that question.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes who knows, whatever that means. Sometimes it's a ghost, whatever that is, right? Like we said, it could be a multidimensional creature. It could be so many different things. But yes, it absolutely could just also be residual energy. It could be the person's expectation or their desire for having it be something that's going on in your own mind. It can be unprocessed trauma that's imprinting on the environment around you. That's definitely a real thing. That's something that pulls in psychology and the paranormal for sure. Sometimes the story that came before you turns into the haunting, right? Like, oh, well, thanks for buying my house, but just so you know, on the second floor or in the attic, sometimes we hear this thing. Boom. Now that's been passed down to you. Like the story now becomes the haunting.
That's happened to so many of these haunted locations, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a story, like, just to give you an example, Goldfield Hotel. There's a couple stories that were made up in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was because they were trying to revitalize the town. And so they wanted to draw people in from Las Vegas to come tour. And so they created all of these stories of murders and things like that. You know what I mean? And now there was a TV show that went in there with those stories. And now everybody believes that they're seeing, like when they go in there, they're experiencing bricks flying and all this crazy stuff that never really happens.
Right. Right. But then if they really, enough people really believe it, then could they make something happen? Right. Like, right. Like you create, was that called the Gansfield experiment or something like that, where they made up a story of a haunting, but then it actually became a haunting or something like that. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories like
and
that.
it's so interesting too, because maybe it was haunted at one time, but now you've got these teams of people coming through and they're all with their friends and they're having the best night ever. Well, that's transmutation, right? Like it's alchemy. It's taking something that was a haunting or maybe something that was negative or something, and it's replacing it with all this positivity. So now it's being haunted by positivity.
It's a really interesting concept. I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought, though, of what you were talking about.
Oh, we'll never get that back. That train has left the station. I don't even remember the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I think I answered it, though.
Well, Brett,
if we say that we answered it, then the people will believe that we did.
They'll believe it, yeah.
They'll think that they missed something. The show must go on.
The show must always go on.
The show must always go on.
Well, for the listeners out there, you should try it. Come up with a fake paranormal story and tell it to somebody and see if they experience any of that. That would be a really good field experiment out there.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it.
Well, what do you have coming up? And where can people find you?
So much coming up all of a sudden. So I'm going to Gettysburg at the end of this month for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. I'm not doing any presenting, but I'll have a table there. I'll be handing out some pamphlets and information and talking to veterans and doing some ghost hunting. My first time in Gettysburg. And then at the end of August, I'll be presenting at the Paranormal Research Symposium, Alex Matsuo's project, on the Haunted House of the Mind that we were talking about a little bit earlier. And then at the beginning of October, I will be at the Rock Island Roadhouse Expo, and I'll be giving a presentation there. But every Wednesday, my podcast episode comes out every Wednesday morning on YouTube and Spotify. I just recorded with Nick Groff. That's coming out tomorrow morning. And you can just look for Haunted Therapist. I'm at Haunted Therapist on all my socials. I'm pretty active on Instagram mostly, but also TikTok. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I apologize for all of the disruptions tonight. I feel like I was all over the place. I have a dog running around.
Oh my God, you were great. No, I had so much fun. I was so happy to be here. We would love to come back anytime.
I would love to have you back. I'll definitely reschedule you for probably later this fall.
Oh, awesome. Spooky season.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Gateway, broadcast live from United Public Radio 107.7 FM. You know what, guys? So the magazine is really late. I do apologize. I have it scheduled to come out on the 15th. So just so if everyone's out there following the Erie Expeditions magazine, look for that issue on July 15th. Thank you guys for listening to the Gateway Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, Please subscribe, leave a review, and also leave a like for the radio station, United Radio Public. I cannot talk tonight, you guys. I'm so sorry. United Public Radio Network 107.7. Thank you all and have a good night.